This session is going to be about player development, which was a hot topic in the survey. My name is Mark Lowry. I'm the president and founder of the National Golf Player Development Foundation. I'm joined up here today with Heather Daly-Donofrio from the United States National Development Team, and Kenyatta Ramsey, whose name you've heard quite a bit mentioned today, from the PGA Pathways to Progression program. Today we want to really answer a couple of burning questions and focus on the development of player development in 2025 and beyond. One of the things that came out in the survey was that we know that there are a lot of people in this room, and typically people who are on the stage, that have done great things in player development in the past. But we want to hear about what's on the horizon. What can we do? And while we want to talk about where we're going in 2025, we want to hear where you're going in 2025. So, because this is an opportunity, as Mike said, as a linking agent, this is an opportunity for you to see people out in the audience that are doing great things in this player development space that you need to get their card as well. Just like we want to have a big session on the left after this is over. So I'm just kidding. What does the future hold? There are a lot of people here. How many people here are here for their first time? Raise your hands. Beautiful. So we got to make sure that they leave here with knowledge that makes it worthwhile for them to be here. So when you go home and you're asked to report back on why did you attend the PGA Show, why did you attend the roundtable, one of the things you want to be able to do is answer, who did I meet, what did I learn, and what can I bring back here to make us better? So we want to try to achieve that, not only with the people up here on the front, but also with you. So as I ask these questions of my two colleagues, I would also say, when you come to the mic, please tell us what you're doing along the lines of the same questions that I've asked them. So, starting with Heather, let me just ask the first question. What do you see as your biggest goal for your program in 2025 as it relates to player development? And then Kenyatta, you take the same question.
Okay, thank you, Mark. So we're coming off our first full year of the USNDP in 2024, and we feel like we're off to a great start and had a lot of successes. Overall, our program touched 400 athletes in its first year. We had 18 athletes on our national junior team, and we ran camps with them, virtual training sessions. We took them over out of the country to get some international experience. We had 72 athletes on our grant program, so we provided financial assistance to these athletes on grants, but it wasn't just about us giving them a check and reimbursing expenses. It was about helping them develop as athletes and as people. So we had virtual sessions with our grant recipients, with our national coaches, and we focused on a lot of different things like course management, nutrition, picking targets into greens, a lot of things to help them on the golf course as well as off. And then we touched about more than 200 athletes through our partnership with the AJGA and our AJGA exemption program, where we're really trying to give national level competition to athletes who can stay without them having to spend the expense and leaving their home state. So for 2025, we're looking to build on what we've started in 2024. Tomorrow we'll be announcing 22 athletes to our national junior team program, 11 girls and 11 boys. That's up from 18. The exciting thing about that is we have one boy and one girl who were in our grant program in 2024 who are graduating to the national junior team. So when we think about the U.S. National Development Program, it's all about a progression, starting at the state level or being part of our grant program, moving to a regional level over time, and then to our national teams. We'll also be announcing tomorrow 100 families in our grant program, so up from 72 last year. And again, working with those families and those athletes individually, we give them access to a statistical application where we give them insights. We'll have more access for them to nutrition, to sports psychologists on our virtual sessions as well. Our grant recipients, I think everybody sees the national team, right? They're the kids who are the best of the best, and they're playing at a very high level. And we had one of our junior boys won the Canadian Amateur, an all-age group event. We had Blades Brown, who just turned professional, his PGA Tour debut last week. But our grant recipients we've got some kids on our national team who are on grants, but we also have athletes who are not even ranked on Junior Golf Scoreboard, who we are identifying at the local level by looking at what they're scoring, how they're finishing amongst their peers locally. We look at their swings to see if they're athletic, they've got good movement. We get letters of recommendation. The family writes a letter of intent, like how are they going to use the grant. And we have a lot of these kids going to the very best colleges in the country for golf. A lot of D1 colleges, Virginia, USC, Pepperdine, Columbia, UPenn, so everything from Ivy Leagues to the best golf schools in the nation. So looking forward to working with more athletes there. We launched our state team program. So again, think of keeping athletes local longer, right? Keeping them developing in-state and providing resources around these athletes to aspire to make their state team. So 7 states were in the program starting last year. We have 114 athletes on state teams. I don't know if some of you saw Colorado has done some great work on social media where they've already brought their kids together, their 16 athletes, for some development. They're actually taking them to Arizona to get them out of the cold, and they'll be wrapping camps and development around around the athletes. So we'll have 9 more states come on this year, and following year I think we'll probably have 15. So providing that inspiration and aspiration for kids to stay in state, develop in state, make their state program, where they get resources from their state. We as the national program will also offer resources to these athletes and use it as a great source of talent identification for us for when we do build out a regional level and the national level. So if you think about the national junior team in 10 years, ideally, theoretically, all those kids would have started at the state level in their state program and worked their way up. I can guarantee you probably next year that there will be kids who are on their state teams this year that will be on national team next year. So again, building that progression. So we're going to expand our relationship with the AJGA. Tori Reese is here. He's our master, he's in the back there, master scouter of finding athletes who are ready, who are playing well at the local level, who haven't had the opportunity to play in an AJGA event, either because lack of resources, or some of them have the resources, but parents have multiple kids and they work 2 jobs and they can't travel with their athlete. So it's really important to give athletes a variety of competitive opportunities. I think we had about 250 plus athletes in that program last year. And Tori, how many got all exempt status? 18 or 19? 19 out of the 250 in that one opportunity we were able to give them earned all exempt status on AJGA, so they could pick and choose their tournaments. And then for those who needed the funding, we'll be able to fund them through those events this year. So continuing to grow, continuing to add resources and bring on partners, and to collaborate within the industry with groups like Kenyatta and the PGA of America, because at the end of the day, it's really not about the USGA or the PGA Tour or PGA of America. It's about what's best for the athlete. And so we all need to work together collaboratively to provide the resources to those kids who need it the most.
Same question, Kenyatta.
That was fantastic. I'm listening. I'm sitting here listening to Heather, and it's crazy because I'm looking back. So we'll talk about what we're doing in the future, but I'm thinking about in 2022 when you and I were standing up here, and it was like, this is what we're hoping to do. And I think that's the key piece to what I want to come across to everyone is we collectively are all doing so much and have made so much progress over the last 2 or 3 years. I think it's something that we should all be proud of, whether it is us 2 up here, Chuck Walker, my man, what you guys are doing with the Southwest Showcase, what Kenny and his team is doing with the PGA Works and the Junior Works. Everyone is coming together and working together, and it really has made a difference. When it comes to the tour, just some highlights from this year. And again, I'll say our program, but the pool of talent is not huge. So we're really all doing, especially when it comes to the elite, diverse talent. We're kind of all dealing with the same folks. We had 24 players in our junior program. 9 of them this year have accepted, Division I college scholarships. Last year it was 2. The first year, or before when we were doing our research before we started our program, it was, I believe, 1 the year before. So I think what we are doing collectively is working. And what we are looking forward to doing really is collaborate more with everyone in the industry. The tour doesn't want to, I think everyone has a place to play in this whole ecosystem. And, the tour, the PGA Tour, when it comes to what we are subject matter experts in, is how do we help to elevate talent and showcase that talent in a way that brings them more support. And that's what we are going to be looking to do. I don't think from a junior perspective, it is continuing to work with the USGA, PGA of America, underrated tour. I see my man Hampton over there, and identifying that talent. But how can we continue to bring more resources? What we see, or what I have seen, is really everyone does a really good job when it comes to the competition aspect. What are we doing when it comes to giving these kids resources, assets in their local market Monday through Friday? Or, underrated tour does a fantastic job when it comes to their providing these kids with competitive opportunities that they are going to see at the next level. They got 5 tournaments. In between those 5 tournaments, what are we doing as an industry to help these kids make sure that they are staying on task, staying accountable, staying responsible? And in between that first and second event, what are you doing to get better? What are you identifying as what you need to work on, and put together a plan in place that helps them to get to that aspect? So that's really what I'm looking forward to. And another gap when it comes to our Pathway to Progression program, which is part of our player development program. So we got the junior space, and then we have the college space. When it comes to our program, there is another gap, and the gap is, especially when it comes to young men, we have touch points with them in the junior space, and then we have touch points with them when they get qualified for the Bridgestone collegiate ranking top 5. Well, from freshman year to junior year, really is a gap of how can we continue to provide more resources, more avenues for competitive excellence, more avenues for competitive opportunities for these young talented. It's once we identify them, which is the most important thing, we got to make sure that we are giving them consistent resources industry-wide that allows them to get to that finish line, which is hopefully at the PGA Tour.
Great. Thank you. So they represent the industry. I represent the grassroots. And so 2025 for us is the continuation of growth. We had successful growth in 24, but we also going to continue to provide resources for that growth. So what Kenyatta and what Heather talked about is, and I'm sure many of you how many are grassroots programs that are in the player development field? I'm sure many of us are also looking at how we can continue to develop the pool so that we make their job a little harder because they're going to have more to choose from. And in essence, makes it a little easier for them because they're going to get better players to choose from. So that is really almost our single most goal as a grassroots program, the National Golf Player Development Foundation, is to continue to grow and continue to develop better players. So as Kenyatta said, when they go to the MAC Champ and they shoot whatever they shoot, we make sure that before they go to underrated, their shots are 4 or 5 shots better. And I see a lot of people in the room that are kind of in that space. I'm going to allow you to ask some questions along those lines. But before we do that, I want to ask the second question because it kind of falls into that. And I think it'll help shape some of the conversation we want to have with you as we open it up. So for both of you, what's your player programs, like myself and like others, that may not be directly involved with your program, focus on to develop players in their programs? This is an example. What type of instruction should we be looking to deliver? What type of advice on more or less tournament play? And then what type of recommendations we should be doing on the mental, physical, aspect of the game. So, Heather?
Geez, that's a pretty broad question there.
This is a pretty broad topic.
Yeah, and it depends on what age group you're talking about, we're talking about, and what the resources are and what ability level the athletes are on. So we and Dr. Beth Brown, our senior player development advisor, is also in the back room, and so she's been spearheading our athlete development blueprint, which really looks at the athlete as a whole. So it's all about developing athletes who thrive. And Beth, maybe you can share a little bit of that, during the course of this conversation, because I do think it directly applies to player development. But we get a lot of questions, even just through our USNDP mailbox about, my kid's not to the level yet to be part of your program, and what could they do? And even kids that are in the program, I always say there's time for competition, there's time for training, there's time for other sports, and there's time just to be a kid, right? So all of that, to me, is building a well-balanced, holistic athlete. I know from previous conversations with a lot of people in this room, like access is part of the challenge, right? Is athletes having access to appropriate practice facilities to be able to get on the golf courses. I don't have the answer for that. But players, especially in that 13, 14, 15-year-old range, again, depending on what ability level they're on, they should be spending 60% of their time training. Or more, depending on resources and the rest, and the balance of that in competition. And I think right now in junior golf, we've got a culture in this country, got to compete, right? Got to climb the ranking to get noticed by college coaches. And part of what our team is trying to do is change the culture of the college coach and how they recruit. Because they don't always have to be looking at the rankings. They need to dive deeper. They need to be looking at our kids who are in the state program, who are getting resources that other kids may not be. And there are so many talented athletes in every corner of the United States that with more attention and resources could get to that collegiate level. And then, you've got individual development with every athlete. There's no one answer for every athlete, but ensuring that these kids are well balanced and playing other sports, I think that's something Dr. Brown and the team and I looked at when we get our grant applications, and all of our kids on grants have financial need, but we do put them through, we do a performance evaluation on them, and we look at their swings to make sure they're athletic and they've got good fundamentals. But we also look to see if they play other sports. Do they play them competitively or not? Because that creates a great foundation for the game of golf. I mean, coaching, there's so many good coaches, in the U.S. I know the PGA of America, LPGA, you can get on their websites wherever you are in the country and you can search. But at the end of the day, you can provide kids all of the resources, but teaching them how to work hard, like that can't come from the coach or the parent. Like, it has to come innately from the child. And at the end of the day, these kids, if you provide them access to a facility, they can drop them off and let them dig it out of the dirt. That's how kids learn, and that's how they'll learn to love the game. And so we see a lot of athletes who have a lot of resources, through various programs, but if the kids don't have desire and they don't want to practice, or their parents are making them, they're only going to get so far. Like, golf is hard. Golf requires a lot of hard work. It's a lot of practice. It's a lot of trial and error. And the kids, when they're 13, 14, 15, they should be experimenting. Like, every swing doesn't have to be perfect, right? Every chip shot doesn't have to be perfect. It's all about finding out, from their own experience, how to create shots, how to be creative, how to work hard, how to, be resilient and not get discouraged if they have a bad round or a bad tournament. So, I don't want us to ever lose sight. Like, we can provide all these resources to young kids, but they've got to want it and they've got to work hard too. And so that's a piece of the puzzle as well.
I'll just add a little bit onto that, and I mean, for us, and it really starts from the pro level, and I'll go specifically to the APGA Tour players that we've been working with over the last 6-7 years. It really comes down to the process. So my recommendation is there's a process to this thing, and the most likely success path for the young people that are coming up, the next generation, is going to be just following that process. We tried it, when this thing kind of all started, when we were getting a lot of opportunities, we tried to cut the process a couple steps, and it doesn't work. We have this ADM that everybody hopefully is aware of and should be using when it comes to how to properly develop, young golfers, and like Heather was saying, the time allotment of competitive versus instruction. That's something that when we created our junior and really our college programs, we relied heavily on that when it comes to, are we just going to be doing tournaments, or are we going to be trying to do other aspects of the developmental process? But I think ultimately it really is a process. From a junior golfer, I get not a lot, but I get enough of people who are, reaching out and saying, hey, can I put my kid into your program so they can go, at this Las Vegas event? And first year I did that, and it didn't go too well because, again, you're trying to cut the process short. The process really is start at the state level, be successful there, then go to the AM, be successful there. Go to underrated, be successful there. They have local qualifiers as well. And then once you're successful at those levels, then you qualify for the upper levels, like the junior works and other opportunities like that, what we do with our program. And then obviously the cream of the crop go to the national team. But that's my biggest suggestion is the more that we try to cut steps out of the process, the tougher it's going to be. When you can always, if you just go step by step through the process of developing a player, doesn't mean that they have to stay there for a year. Some of these, if the talent is there, you're going to be able to recognize talent, and we can take them through the step 2 to step 3 of the process quicker.
So the future and getting kids on your radar screen, is there a process for that? Can you speak to that a minute?
So for our junior program, we really, and again, I think the biggest thing for what we were trying to build the PGA Tour when we started this whole player development aspect is we're not trying to be subject matter experts in things that we aren't and shouldn't be. And there are so many great people and so many great organizations out there doing the work of developing talent. What we want to do is just be able to use our program as a means to be able to A, reward those organizations, and B, be able to engage their top players. So for our program, we don't pick our players. We use the industry experts in the player development aspect that are with these kids on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, to pick our players, and that's Underrated Tour. We work with them. We work very closely with the First Tee. We work very closely with the Cameron Champ Foundation. And that's how we fill because those are really the top level tournaments or tours that showcase our black and brown young talent. So for me, that's where we should be going to first to select our participants for our program. And then from there are always, obviously industry experts. My ladies in the back, Ted Rose Foundation, do a fantastic job of throwing several events throughout the year that, again, try to identify that top level talent. So, but primarily we focus on who's out there that's doing the great work of developing that talent and then selecting from that group.
So we identify talent in a couple of different ways. First, we always tell kids if you want to get on our USNDP radar, we have a standardized golf resume that's on our website that the kids can fill out. So they fill it out. Again, it goes to Tori, and Tori does an initial evaluation on those golf resumes, and so we can start keeping these kids top of mind for whatever programming that we have. With the USNDP, we take a lot of recommendations from others. So that's one thing, we don't have eyes everywhere in the United States. So a lot of our allied golf associations and PGA of America sections will elevate athletes to us. Mark's elevated athletes to us. I know a lot of you know Jenny Bethune from T Divas and T Dudes. She hounds me on a daily basis, and I love it. She tags her kids on social media so I can see what they're doing. We have 4 of her girls in our program, and they're all thriving. So Very similar to Kenyatta, we're looking to those of you in the room who are working with talented players, and our program starts at 13. So if they're 13 and up and you think they have something special, please call any one of us on our team and we will take a look at your athletes, because as we grow, we need more help from the industry to elevate athletes to us. I mean, second year of a grant program, more than 50% of our grant recipients are athletes of color. And I was sharing with Kenyatta earlier, last year, we didn't have one black male junior golfer in our grant program. This year we have 3, right? It doesn't sound like a lot, but we went from 0 to 3 in a year. But we can do better than that, and we do better on the girls' side, and we've made good gains also in the Latino community as well with our junior golfers. But we don't have eyes and ears everywhere, and so we're looking to those of you in the room to help us with that.
Shanta?
So, Ashante Epps, LPGA, A Perfect Swing, Charlotte, North Carolina. My question is regarding, like you mentioned just now, kind of piggybacking on that, is that you're getting more of those numbers. I think from 0 to 3 is great, right? It's not a sports car, but it's good. And so that's where, when we talk about those that have grassroots organizations in the room, that's where we come in to create that pipeline that continues, right? So who's after the 3? What are we doing there? And so my question is, when we talk about our juniors, some of them are, they may only be in PGA Junior League, so finances are limited and things of that such. Like, what are those resources or those key things that you're looking for when you say, hey, this is the particular skill set or junior that I'm looking for? Because they may not have high-performing instruction, or they may not have this, they may not have that. What are those things? Is it just score-based, right? Or is there something else or some other key things that you're looking for when you're making the decisions?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are some lines in the sand from a competitive perspective. So I can't ignore that, right? So again, our program starts at 13. And it really is for kids that are already competing. So we use the handicap requirements for our boys and girls junior. So it's 5.4 for girls and 2.4 for boys. So these are already kids that are performing at a pretty high level. We do look very closely at their golf resumes. But it doesn't matter if they're playing locally or if they're playing nationally, because we will look at what scores are they shooting locally. Even we've got a couple kids on grants, right, Dr. Brown, that have only played 18-hole and some 36-hole events. Never played in a 3-day event before, but they're playing locally, and we're looking at their scores. And I would say, if we were picking out an average, I mean, we have some kids that are in competitive, probably averaging. I mean, some of them are 70, some of them are 78, 79. Again, depending on the age group. And we're looking at what yardages they're playing from in those tournaments, where they're finishing within those tournaments compared to their peers. So if somebody's dominating at the local, town, regional, state level, we're looking at that. We're looking at their swing videos. We ask for short game videos, swing videos. Are they athletic? Do they have speed? We look at that. We ask if they know their swing speed or their driving distance. Look at that as well. And then we do take into consideration opportunity on both ends of the scale, right? So have they not had the opportunity to play outside of their local area, where we feel like we can give them that opportunity and some resources to help them progress? And then other kids might have had a lot of opportunity and are not competing at a higher level than somebody who hasn't had the opportunity. So we do look at that as well. Okay. And we look at the recommendations. I think, sometimes we're not sure on an athlete, and the recommendation will get us over the hump. So, if some of you have athletes who are applying for a grant program, which it won't open again until the summer, but those recommendations are really important, where somebody that they know that they're working with that can attest to their work ethic, the kind of person they are, their sportsmanship, and their ability to grow in the game.
Awesome. And I want to hear from you too, Kenyatta. One follow-up question for you. Yeah. So is there, when we talk about yardages, based on a tournament, they identify what the yardages are. So the yardages that you consider, is that documented somewhere per age? Because I know it varies per category.
We don't have that documented. Beth, we don't have that documented, do we? Like, no.
So you can use the AD of the American
AD.
Development Model.
Okay.
And they lay out what
Just
the
Mike.
Oh, can you,
I will say, like, when we're looking at junior tournaments and we're looking, like, there are some of the junior tours that, frankly, I believe are playing the courses too short, and they're
Right.
could be doing a disservice to the athlete. Like, I always like to see athletes pushing themselves and playing longer golf courses. So even if you look at the AJG, like, their average yardage for their girls' events are more like the 58, 5900. So, you know, we could be looking at somebody and they might be shooting really good scores, but they're playing 4,900 yards, right? And they're 15, they need to be stretching themselves out. And with the boys, it's more 63, 64. And when you really get to the boys who are like all going off to college, it's longer than that. So, I mean, I think we probably have some work to do with some of the junior tours, frankly, here in the US, and getting them to push their athletes and push those yardages up, because if they do want to continue going through the pipeline, they've got to learn how to play longer yardages.
right, no, totally agree.
Okay.
So Kenyatta, you were saying the 80? For
The American Development Model, which is on, do you know where they can download
the
that?
ADM
at?
model.
Make Off Your Thing, I think it may be at makeoffyourthing.org. But that gives you, it's a resource that was developed by the PGA Tour, USGA, LPGA, et cetera. And it just gives you, based off of where they are, the age they are, and the skill level, different yardages they should be playing, how much they should be practicing versus playing, and it's just a guideline.
Okay, perfect.
But it's
Thank
a good guideline.
Beth, do you want to comment on that? Or?
I'm just looking at it's USA Golf. They just put out an interactive version of it in vitality with PGA America. It literally just got out there, and I don't know, I'm not going to say date, but very recent. But USA Golf.
USA Golf, for those who couldn't hear, that's where those yardages are posted. Also, I would say to contact your AJGA and your local state associations. We have a member from AJGA. Do they post the yardages for your tournaments on? Yep. So the yardages for AJGA tournaments are posted on their website. Also, reach out, Mike Cooper talked about connecting with your state and your local golf associations. I know, like my prior state, Illinois, the Illinois Junior Golf Association had a number of tournaments. Northwest Indiana Junior Golf Association had tournaments that were local that kids could travel to and not incur heavy expenses to travel in those. And they were also could get points and stars, PBEs from there. So as you come up and introduce yourself, what I'd like for you to do before you ask your question is give one thing that your organization is going to do moving forward to improve the player development in the groups that you work with. So, good.
To answer your question that you just asked, I really can't. I don't have an organization.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm a professional golfer. My name is Joseph Dent. I'm 25 years old. And everything that you guys are talking about, I mean, I can understand. I've been through those things where, you know, where you're struggling to find money and opportunity to play tournaments, practice at better courses. A lot of the peers and my friends that play professionally too, that may be on the APGA and other tours, they have the same struggles. What I'm trying to say is, you know, I have dreams to play on the PGA Tour. That's my dream. You know, I currently have status on the Asian Development Tour. I play the APGA, and I'm looking for an opportunity. You know, I'm here at the PGA Show just trying to reach my dream. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And me reaching my dream can inspire somebody else. And
where do you currently live? I'm sorry.
I currently live in Augusta, Georgia.
Okay, so access to facilities in Augusta are a challenge?
Yeah, they're a challenge. The course that I practice at, that I was practicing at, closed. The Augusta Municipal, it closed. Augusta National doing a renovation, and it won't be open for another 16 months. So it put me in a tight spot, but I have the hunger and the drive to find what I need to do. So I've gone to many courses, given my resume, say, hey, is there anything I could do to get an opportunity to practice here? You know, Do I need to pick range balls after practice or anything, provide any value? But the main part is, you know, as a professional golfer at any level, you need money. You need opportunity, you need money to buy the time. You're trying to buy the time to practice, develop, to be a tour player, right? Anybody in here can be a tour player. You don't have to be a certain height, skill, or you just have to have the drive and the work ethic. And then you have to have the opportunity and the time. What I'm here asking is, I need the opportunity and time and the money and the resources to do and chase my dreams. And is there anybody in here that can help me? That's all I'm saying. You know, I want to play on the PGA Tour. I want to win major championships. But, you know, at the end of the day, you need opportunity. And if you give opportunity to somebody that's willing to put the work in and the hard work, anything is possible.
Right.
You know, I hear a lot of the stuff about the content creation stuff and all that. You know, that's great. I mean, you're providing value, but, you know, hey, man, what scores are you shooting? You know, are you putting in the work? Are you out there grinding? Not getting on social media, smiling, posting a picture. You know what I mean? You got to put in the work. And I know what it takes, you know, to get to the next level. You need a team. You need resources. You need an actual team, an actual plan that's going to put you in position to make that dream possible. You know, you need people behind you, whether it's your girlfriend, your dad, your coach, your mental coach, your gym coach. You need a team, a plan, a structured plan that's going to give you the best opportunity to make that dream happen. And finally, you need the money, because these people need to be paid for their time. So what I'm saying is, let's start with me. How can I get an opportunity? That's what I'm saying. Is there anybody here that could help me?
I think John was going to go next. The story that John might tell might be helpful because it requires a collective, and John will probably tell a story of a collective that has helped a young man in Dallas.
John, before you, let me just say, would you, young man, I'm sorry, you didn't give me your name.
Joseph Dent.
Joseph, would you, that name rings a bell, and I heard someone say it, so. Son or grandson? Son of Jim.
Yeah, son, that's my dad.
Son, okay. Do me a favor, just scan that QR code so that we get your information, and then we can try to circle back with you and see how we can put our heads together. There's enough people in this room that, you know, one link can do it.
And
Just stay right here.
Okay.
Grab his
Okay.
information.
Actually, I couldn't have set that up more perfectly. So I'm John Hagler. I'm the chairman of the Pro Duffers Foundation. But Joseph, I actually feel you pouring your heart out. So I want to tell a quick story. The Pro Duffers is 15 chapters across the country. So we're an African American Golf Club. We actually have a presentation that we're doing tomorrow. I think it's 2:15. But I want to tell you a quick story about Greg Odom. So Greg Odom, Howard University graduate, he won a tournament last year. Our DC chapter did an NIL deal with him. And like Joseph, he needed a place to practice. So if any of you are familiar with the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I was the chairman of that foundation there under the Pro Duffers umbrella. So we were able to support him financially so that he could practice at Trinity Forest. That's where SMU plays. And we're just one organization, but we have done stuff like Path to the Tour. It takes a collective to get it done. I hate to hear a young man like this from his dad to what he's done, but it's up to us individually to step up as organizations or individual supporters. But I wanted to just share that story because, you know, he graduated from Howard University. We supported him locally, and then he moved to Dallas, which is where his coach and his agent was. But we do believe that there's a path to the tour. It's a collective effort that's got to take place. But I wanted to share that, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in our session tomorrow. But Chuck's right, that's a true story that's happened. So we have to get behind young men and women like this of color, because if we don't give them financial support, their opportunities are going to be limited. Thank you.
Yep, appreciate it. And I couldn't agree more. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. My name is Esmeralda Knowles. I'm with Inner City Youth Golfers Incorporated. We are in Riviera Beach, and I think to your question, what we're doing to expand player development, well, currently we're in the process of building the African American Golfers Museum and Inner City Youth Clubhouse, which will house 2 simulators, and as well as it's going to have an outside experience. In Riviera Beach, if you know anything about that area, there is no golf courses. The one that we had locally closed, so there's really no place for or space for those kids to really take hold. So we are hoping that with our building coming into online, that we can, encourage those kids to really follow through their dreams. And my question is, do you have a checklist or some type of training for parents to use, or so that they can understand how to navigate the system to get their kids through what y'all are talking about?
We don't have a module specifically on that, but on the USGA website, again, something that Dr. Brown spearheaded, we have a series of parent education modules that we did with Pia Nilsson and Lynn Merritt from Vision 54 called Be My Champion, and it's more advice around how a parent can best support their athlete, and how they respond to certain situations with their athlete, but nothing specifically. And it's great. There's several other national programs globally that are using our Be My Champion training for their parents.
That's on your website?
Sorry?
On your website?
Yeah, so it's on the USGA website, our usndp.org. If you just put in usndp.org, all of our resources for our program are on there now. It's going to continue to grow, but those modules would be a good starting place for the parents. But that's something for us to know is, can we put something together on how to navigate the system, which is, that's difficult in itself for families to figure out. It's a very complicated landscape.
Thank you so much.
One of the things that we have done is we conduct a monthly Zoom call with our parents and our players, and with their theme generated. So, for example, we've had people who are in the NIL space be on those calls. We've had coaches from HBCUs and from Division I's be on those calls to talk about the pathways to college golf. Heather has been on that call to talk about the national team and talk about player development for those that are aspiring to get up to the level of being on a national team. So that's something that's an idea that many of you who have programs could do. I'm going to just pick somebody out in the crowd that I see, because Preston, you've been doing some great things in the Oakland area with your program. Do you want to take a second just to talk about, I hate to put you on the spot, but I know you've been doing some good stuff.
I appreciate the opportunity to share. My name is Preston Pinckney. I have a foundation called the Pinckney Foundation in Oakland, California. Our primary program is Ace Kids Golf. We've been around since 1998, introducing life skills to the game of golf and using golf as a tool to create positive and productive citizens, and bring in opportunities for our kids in terms of mentorship, access to college, access to golf courses. And a lot of this development stuff, I actually started a program for that called the AATQ, African American Tour Quest, where we started on those same guides, providing access to facilities, PGA professionals that coach PGA pros, also sports psychologists, fitness nutrition trainers. But in these days, it's like an unsustainable model. With all the traveling and things like that. If you look at a young person like that just spoke, you're looking at over $100,000 a year just to try to compete. So it takes a whole village to get behind it. But some of the things that I'm proud of doing in terms of bringing more equity into the game, we also started an indoor golf training facility, which is breaking a lot of barriers for kids that don't have access to the golf course. So we put together a 2-bay facility called Primetime Golf right in downtown Oakland. We use Golf Zone simulators. We have a Zen Stage putting green. It's a movable putting green. And then we also have a mobile golf simulator that we bring out to the community. So we partner with the schools. We're actually doing some pretty creative work with the juvenile justice system, where we're bringing our mobile golf simulator up to juvenile hall and teaching the life skills to our kids to help them do better when they get out of the situation. And so what I'm most proud about doing all this work is the relationships that we're building with the families, with the communities, and just seeing our kids graduate high school, going on to graduate college, and then they come back and they give back. You know, a lot of our kids come back and they train the younger kids, mentor, volunteer, or work for us. And it's a passion project for me. You know, like I tell everybody, you know, I would do this for free, you know, but, you know, it costs money to do these things. And so we think of different ways to figure things out, different kind of partnerships, dealing with corporations, dealing with local golf courses and foundations, you know, and we're grateful to the PGA Tour. They gave us a grant this year. Make Golf Your Thing has been very, very helpful in our last few years. I mean, we've probably gotten, I don't know, it's been over $50,000, $60,000 to keep our programs going and impact our kids. And I always have ambitious goals. You know, at one point, our program was up to almost 1,000 kids a year with all our initiatives, including golf tournaments and things like that. We scaled back significantly just because we've been going through this transition the last couple years and figuring out a business model to actually run a business while still doing programs with a small staff is very straining. But we're excited about this year. And we have a lot of information on our website for the work that we're doing and what our plans are. So one of the things that I'm excited about that we're actually starting on Friday is we're working with Cal State East Bay, where we have an accredited college program, and we're teaching four-year university students, two-year college students, high school and middle school students, math and STEM through golf applications. And so they're actually getting college credit for this opportunity. It's going to be a 16-week program. So we start that on Friday. And then one of the other initiatives that we're doing too, that's a little bit out the box, is we're starting an eclectic sports summer camp. It's a 3-week camp, and the kids are going to do rowing, tennis, golf, and equestrian. So these are kind of like the most elite sports opportunities for our kids, and we're dealing with low-income kids in East Oakland that are getting these opportunities. So I just try to think out the box of how to make the most impact. You know, I love to see my kids go pro one day, and we know how tough it is. But just in all, for them to be good citizens and be successful and take care of their kids and be positive adults, you know, is the overall blessing for me in what I'm doing.
Thank you, President.
Thank you.
I just want to ask one more friend, if I could, Chuck. Can you talk about, not necessarily this, Chuck runs the Southwest Airlines Showcase, which many of you have seen the past 2 Novembers on Golf Channel, which it really highlights our best players for 3 days and really shows what they do, and they really show out. The winners have been under par, and I think most of the top half of the field is under par, so it's very, but Chuck, can you talk about some of the things that you do outside of the Southwest Challenge to engage the kids in the Dallas area with your youth?
If I could, I'm coming up there as we launch nonprofit.
Okay.
We launched the nonprofit section.
Okay.
I was going to speak to it in that introduction, if that's okay.
I will grant you that. Then with that, I'm going to ask Dr. Cooper to come up. We've got a special guest that's in the room.
They got it. Go ahead, we can just wrap up. They told me don't even get back on the stage.
We're going to have a session next year called Speaker Development. So I want to thank our 2 moderators. Please give them a hand. Kenyatta Ramsey and Heather, thank you so much.